I always thought my heart would be the one part of me I could count on. It had survived childbirth, grief, stress, years of working double shifts, decades of loving too hard and worrying too much. It beat through every moment of my life without asking for anything in return. So when my feet first started swelling, just a little puffiness around the ankles, I didn't think it had anything to do with my heart. I thought it was age, or too much walking, or maybe I'd eaten something salty the day before. I didn't see it as a warning. I saw it as an inconvenience. I was 70 when the swelling began. I'd take off my shoes in the evening and see a faint indentation where the fabric had wrapped around my ankles. My daughter Emily noticed before I did. "Mom, your feet look swollen," she said one day when she bent down to help me with my slippers. I shrugged and said, "It's nothing. Happens to everyone eventually." She didn't look convinced, but I brushed her off. I had things to do, places to be, grandchildren to pick up, errands to run. I didn't have time to worry about my feet. Over the next months, the swelling grew worse. I had to wrestle with my shoes to get them on. My ankles disappeared entirely some days. I'd wake up with tightness in my calves, and by afternoon my legs felt heavy, like they were filled with water. That should have scared me, but instead I laughed it off. My legs are just tired, I'd say. I'll elevate them later. I rarely did. Salt became my constant companion. I loved salty food. Chips, canned soups, frozen dinners, take-out sandwiches loaded with pickles and cured meats. I didn't understand how much sodium I was consuming. Didn't understand that every bite was pulling my body deeper into danger. My doctor had warned me about salt once years ago. "You need to reduce your sodium," he said gently. "It's hard on the heart." I nodded politely and then went home and sprinkled salt on my dinner anyway. By 71, walking uphill left me short of breath. Carrying groceries made me pause halfway to the kitchen. I told myself I was just out of shape. I started taking the elevator instead of the stairs, not because I needed to, but because I felt winded more often than I cared to admit. When Emily suggested seeing a doctor, I said, "It's nothing. I just need to rest more," but rest never helped. Nothing helped. The real warning came the night I woke up gasping. Not choking, not coughing, gasping, like someone had stolen all the oxygen from the room. I sat up abruptly, clutching my chest, breathing in short, rapid bursts. Sweat drenched the back of my nightgown. I tried to stand, but dizziness made me grab the edge of the dresser to steady myself. When I finally caught my breath, I convinced myself it was just a panic attack, or a vivid dream, anything except my heart crying out for help. I should have gone to the hospital that night, but fear and pride speak louder than reason. I told no one. As the months passed, the signs piled up like leaves before a storm. My fingers swelled. My ring became tight. My stomach bloated after even the smallest meals. I couldn't lie flat without feeling like I was drowning. Emily begged me to see a doctor. Begged. She'd bring low-sodium meals, lecture me gently about salt, try to get me to check my weight regularly. I didn't want to hear any of it. I felt like she was treating me like a child, and I resisted with every ounce of stubbornness I had left. One morning I woke up feeling strange, heavy, weak. My breath felt shallow, like I was inhaling through a straw. I walked to the bathroom and nearly fainted. When I looked in the mirror, my face was pale, my eyes dull. Something inside me whispered, "Something is very wrong." But as always, I pushed that fear aside. I made coffee. I sat in my chair. I told myself the feeling would pass. It didn't. By afternoon, I couldn't catch my breath no matter how deeply I inhaled. I tried sitting upright. I tried pacing. Nothing helped. My chest felt tight. My legs were swollen up to my knees, and an overwhelming sense of dread settled over me. When Emily called to check on me, I tried to sound normal, but she heard the strain in my voice instantly. "Mom, what's happening?" "You sound out of breath," I lied. I said I'm fine, but then mid-sentence I started coughing uncontrollably. deep, wet coughs that rattled my entire body. Emily was at my house in 15 minutes. When she saw me hunched over, wheezing, clutching the armrest with trembling fingers, she didn't hesitate. She called 911. I tried to protest, but I couldn't speak without gasping. The paramedics arrived quickly. One of them placed an oxygen mask over my face, and the cold rush of air felt like relief and punishment all at once. They checked my vitals, exchanged serious glances, and said, "We need to get her to the hospital now." At the ER, everything moved in fast, chaotic motions. IV lines, blood work, chest x-rays, ultrasound of my heart. I lay there afraid in a way I had never known, with my daughter sitting beside me, her eyes red from crying. I wanted to tell her it would be okay, but my chest ached too much to speak. When the doctor came in, his expression told the story before his words did. "Diane, you're in congestive heart failure," he said gently. "Your heart is very weak and your body is retaining a lot of fluid. The swelling in your legs, the shortness of breath, those were signs your heart was struggling." I felt the world tilt under me. Heart failure. I stared at him in disbelief. But I didn't feel sick. I whispered. He shook his head. "Heart failure doesn't always start with pain. It starts quiet." Then he told me the part that broke me. This could have been managed earlier, maybe even prevented from getting this bad. Prevented. That word stabbed deeper than any needle. They started me on strong diuretics. Fluid poured out of me in liters. My legs deflated slowly. My breathing improved, but my heart, my faithful, overworked heart, was damaged, permanently weakened. It would never return to what it once was. Emily stayed with me every night of that first week. She held my hand as I drifted in and out of exhausted sleep. Once, when she thought I was unconscious, I heard her whisper to a nurse I tried to tell her. I tried. And the guilt that washed over me was something I'll carry for whatever time I have left. Recovery was not simple. I had to weigh myself every morning to look for fluid retention. I had to take medications at specific hours. I had to give up salty foods I had loved for decades. Canned soups, deli meats, frozen dinners, all of it. I had to sleep propped up to prevent fluid from filling my lungs again. I had to move slower, breathe deeper, rest more. My life became a constant dance around my heart's fragility. But the emotional recovery was even harder, knowing that every sign had been there, knowing I had ignored my daughter's pleas, knowing that every "it's nothing" was a step toward the hospital bed I now lie in. Knowing the swelling, something so simple, was my heart begging for help. Now, lying here again, after another flare-up, oxygen tubing hugging my face, I realize how fragile life becomes when pride outruns caution, how quickly things unravel when you pretend symptoms are harmless, how dangerous salt can be when mixed with denial. If someone were listening, someone seeing their ankle swelling and shrugging it off, someone who loves salty food too much, to stop someone who is breathless and telling herself it's just age. I'd beg her to listen. Swelling is not normal. Shortness of breath is not normal. Waking up gasping is not normal. Salt is not harmless. And heart failure doesn't start dramatic, it starts quiet. If I could go back, I'd treat every swollen ankle as a warning. I'd listen to Emily the first time she told me. I'd cut out the salt. I'd see my doctor regularly. I'd choose living longer over eating what I wanted. I'd choose listening over stubbornness. But I can't go back. I can only hope my story reaches someone before her heart reaches its limit. Your heart whispers long before it breaks. Please listen now, before silence becomes your only answer.